so they do still need those sort of two main cores. Meanwhile, for Hokori, going to be getting the Faceless Void online for themselves. Lumiere going to be taking that here to the safe lane, and he is going to get buffed up pretty consistently, you would assume, thanks to that Empower from the Magnus as well.
Yeah, and really, Corey, it's an old standby. You pick up the mag, you pick the void. They were picking this in first phase for a lot of their tournaments, and Lumiere Void, we saw it yesterday. Now, if you're Latam, honestly, what I would love for them is just pick the Viper here. We'll see if they end up going for it. Gonna go for the Peel instead. And while you do have the Shadow Demon to have that defensive capability versus the Spear, I think they really picked it there because the other hero that would have felt really good versus both the Phoenix and the Penguin was the Ursa. It's almost a pick to dissuade a different pick, but they just go in a completely different direction. Now that the PL is online, you do need to be a little bit cautious. Of course, Empower is one of the best tools versus him, but PL, once you get that shard, Mars does nothing versus the PL. You always put your illusions out in front. The spear gets caught up. Nothing you can do in that regard. And this isn't your sort of Shadow Demon Luna where you're going to make those illusions of the PL and then start pushing down towers. Again, a lot of defenders, similar to that Spectre, they're slotting in a much slower paced carry where if you can sort of bide your time, wait a little bit longer, you are going to be able to get a game for Kukahook. In the previous game, even though he was very farmed on the troll, his CS was good. He didn't have the sort of net worth. He wasn't able to be active enough on that hero. Where PL, you're okay with not being too active. You're going to have that diffusal timing where you're definitely going to try and make a play. But up until that point, it is just going to be Kukahook hitting creeps in his jungle.
Yeah, just slow and steady kind of strategy. Get themselves online. A little bit of what Hokori were doing in game one with the Bristle and the Terrorblade. So Latam defenders going to take a page from their opponent's book, and hopefully for them, that PL is going to emerge from that jungle eventually in a position to try and turn the game around for them. For now, though, both sides sort of, well, I would say looking towards the middle lane, which actually seems maybe a little bit strange for the Latam defenders side. I think they're assuming here that maybe the mag isn't going to be a core hero after all, or at least it looks that way with that initial ban on the Kunkka to kick off phase 3. So they're sort of keeping their options open here. We have seen the mag shifted to a supporting role from time to time, so they don't necessarily want to make too many assumptions and maybe let Hokori just sort of sneak in there with some sort of final pick for Analog.
And I think they're making the call that, okay, we see the Shadow Demon, we see the Phoenix. We can kind of gauge that these supports aren't the strongest when it comes to buffing up their lane partners. So I think more likely we could see that Magnus shifted to the 3 position and then the Mars maybe put in as the 5. At the same time, we could also see this Mars going mid, Vitaly ending up on that, again, that offline Magnus and then slotting things around even further. 5 Mars, I feel like the first player we really saw getting away with it was either Moo or Prada on Unknown, something like that, where it's still numbers wise, the hero's incredibly good. Spear continues to be one of the best disables in the game. And after seeing the Shadow Demon, if your lane is Shadow Demon Pango, I think you could probably get away with the Mars 5 if that's where they're looking, but again, Hokori, they did it very well in their previous draft where they kept things open, they kept you guessing, and they have very flexible heroes if they do want to go for these sort of side lane positions. And with the Tiny picked up on a lot of defenders, that is a hero, while not as adept as the Leshrac is pushing down buildings, will be active. It is your guaranteed hero that will be able to get online. You will be able to get that blink dagger, and there's not much you could do about it. I think after seeing the Invoker banned out, a lot of defenders can pick this Tiny with relative security. They know he's not going to get too shut down in lane. And now, if you're Analog, what do you want? You've got kind of the smorgasbord of heroes. You could really take the Magnus or the Mars mid versus the Tiny and have a decent time, but we'll have to see if they want to go for a counter pick, if they want to try to get something that pairs up a little bit better versus the PL. And bottom, they did get the PL whenever the Lash is banned out. So again, Kukahook will be having a pretty nice time. But again, all that farm, it's going on to Kukahook. Tiny, Pango, these are not your farmers. These are going to be your active players. And they're going to get counter picked out by the Bat Rider. Okay. Hokori, you're doing it.
The Bat Rider will come into play. Analog will be hitting that one up, which means we got Mars in the off lane, and it will be the support Magnus in the hands of Gardic. So that is going to be the answer to that question. We were sort of wondering where they were going to shuffle things around. So, yeah. Magnus in a support position, maybe not going to have quite the same degree of sort of damage output, but you still have him there for the Empower. You still have that initiation if he can get himself something along the lines of the Blink Dagger. So a little bit strange still for Hokori, but I can certainly see it working out for them.
Yeah, and it really, if the sides were swapped, I think Hikori would have loved to play Dire just because El Misho, Lion, even though you're just Lion, you always get the double stack off in those Ancients. You can still do it pretty easily on the Radiant side, but it's more so that Gardic is going to struggle a little bit more to stack, and I think that's what they really want to accomplish here. You stick Gardic on a hero where with that Shockwave, you're going to be able to get 2 camps. You're going to be already very close proximity-wise to that Faceless Void, and again, Hokori, they love to boost up Lumiere. They love to give him that positional advantage where if he has 3 or 4K net worth up on the enemy carry, just because you're stacking a little bit more, he's going to feel very safe in his game.
So, well, here we go. Second time around here, trying to get Game 2 underway. Obviously, some server problems sort of killing the original version of Game 2, but we are back into it. We are good to go here, looking for... There we go. Looking for the answer to the question of, honestly, whether Hokori can advance, move on to the next round, or if it's going to be Latam defenders fighting their way sort of back into the series here. To be honest, this reset, it's a little bit strange for everyone involved, but it feels like this sort of benefits Hokori a little bit more. We were not massively into that second match, but Latam defenders have been playing well. Analog's Puck was not having a good time. They were sort of putting pressure onto the towers with the Leshrac, and now you're forced to sort of reset with a different situation. So if Latam defenders sort of play it well here, they could get off to the exact same sort of start. It just seems a little unfortunate for them with that reset.
Yeah, and I feel like to compound it, Hokori, they take it in a different direction, but they also just stick to their guns. They play heroes that they were playing yesterday pretty consistently. I thought this game was really going to be the battle of the Void and the Vipers that we saw in that Unknown versus Hokori series, but they finally pull it out, and they pull it out in a situation where I think they're going to feel pretty good about it. Of course, at the end of the day, Kukahook is always going to be your X factor on this PL. If he can get away with a little bit too much, it is going to be pretty scary. But then to punctuate everything, you get this last pick Batrider versus Tiny. Of course, Tiny is one of those heroes that isn't the worst versus the Batrider, just because you do get that stick up, you basically have unlimited mana, but you can definitely get run down. And at the same time, both of your side lanes are very you are going to get run down. You are going to make those easy rotations, and if he has lasso, I don't even know if you're going to need to commit it. You maybe need to commit it for the PL just because he has that doppel, but if you see the swash or the doppel ever committed, Analog, once he has those boots of travel, he's just going to come. He's going to be everywhere.
Yeah, just not a whole lot that Latam defenders are going to be able to do to stop him unless they sort of really catch him out first. Maybe Black Soul gets off some sort of toss play, maybe he can create some separation with the Avalanche, but that is asking for quite a little bit from your Tiny to basically sort of save the day there. So I think he's going to have some opportunities for himself here. For now, though, obviously just level 1, looking to keep the stacks up onto Black Soul, who might want to be a little bit careful here. He's got 8 stacks on him already. Came to lane, as you mentioned, with that stick, but you, need to back off, wait for those stacks to sort of dissipate before you push back in, just in case Analog is looking to get a little bit aggressive with that second level.
Yeah, and just really measured play from Black Soul, knowing, okay, I've got 8 stacks, he's about to hit level 2 in 2 creeps, knowing he can't get too many denies here. And that's really Tiny, you're just farming. You're just going to hopefully get a few more levels up in Avalanche, which he obviously will do. It's going to get a little bit easier with that cooldown. Level 1 Ava really does feel the worst, and that's where you're going to see him maybe sit underneath his tower a little bit here. But again, it's very similar to the previous game, where unfortunately it should have been just a farm game, but Moonlight had some really good rotations. I think top, just the spear.
Pushes in, spear into into the Rebuke. El Misho's there with the sort of follow-up lockdown, and Kukahook, I mean, this PL is not a defensive hero. There's not a whole lot he's going to be able to do there. The Phoenix gets into trouble. He can't exactly save him. Meanwhile, down in the bottom lane, Moonlight getting picked off as well. Gardic hits him up with the sort of shockwave into the skewer play. Lumiere has the damage underneath the tower to finish the job, and that's Hokori on the board with 2 quick kills on opposite sides of the map. And if you're Latam defenders, the good news is you only lose your 2 supports in that scenario, but really can't afford to give up too much this early on. Lumiere is obviously going to be farming at a pretty solid rate once that Empower gets onto him, so can't really afford to give him anything extra across these first couple of minutes.
And I think just mentally, don't let it bother you too much. Of course, you were in a better spot in the previous game. You were able to get a few more trade outs when that first blood did eventually strike. It's the same situation, too, with Aretas getting picked off in the top lane for first blood, but still, you just need to sort of put your head down. You're going to be fine. See what you can get out of these lanes. And that's something that this time around, bottom defender supports are the Phoenix is the same, but it's the same hole where you're not going to feel quite as strong, and you need to be a little bit careful. At least there isn't a Bane this time around, so maybe Valkyrie's lane is going to be a little bit easier for him. He's not playing versus that Bane lifestealer. He should be able to kind of do whatever. Going to get his 6 hopefully in a little bit of a better fashion. That's something where the Faceless Void might get shoved out a little bit harder. But at the same time, you got to be careful. The time dilation, it does so much, especially versus heroes like Shadow Demon, where you use both your spells and then suddenly you're stuck. There's nothing you can do.
Gardic and Moonlight continuing to sort of trade some damage back and forth here. Gardic doesn't really have a whole lot to do outside of just right-clicking him up. Even if he does find the skewer in this situation, he's not going to really force him into a scenario where the Faceless Void can come over to help, but just trying to really prevent Moonlight from doing much of anything here. He is going to try to sort of pull this one away. This isn't actually going to stack, right? There's no way. Yeah. Not going to be able to do that, but he does prevent the pull from Gardic himself. So just hoping to create some space for Valky, but over on the other side of the map, that's going to be Aredes taken down again. Vitali able to push in pretty much the exact same combo that they unleashed earlier for First Blood. They get the Spear, they get the Hex, they've got the Earth Spike there for the follow-up, even the slow from the Rebuke, really just putting the Phoenix in a situation where if you don't have Icarus dive, you're just screwed. And in this situation, he actually did have the dive there, but there's just too much lockdown for him to ever actually get it off as El Misho.
Yeah,
again,
PL.
they get down the stun into the Spear. Oh. Hook not tanky enough to survive that one. Doppelganger was available, but as I was just sort of saying a moment ago, when you have that kind of lockdown, that kind of combo that you can put together, there's no time to react.
One bottom.
Gardic. Yep. Gonna get clipped to there. Valky's able to sort of put one on the board, so lots of defenders do finally manage to stop the bleeding with a kill of their own, but I don't know. Getting the Magnus there, it's nice, but you end up losing your PL elsewhere on the map. That is going to be a rather sizable setback across these first few minutes. But now, okay, he's still holding the time walk. He's going to be able to get himself away. Moonlight wasn't really close enough for that disruption, but that felt a little bit risky, but Lumiere is able to walk it off. He gets the healing salve dropped onto him as well, so he should be just fine. As Gardic went for the shockwave. He thought about the skewer, didn't quite have the angle, though. Valky was still a little ways in front of him, so wouldn't have been able to pull him all the way back.
And that is where their lane is much, much weaker this time around. This isn't your Bane lifestealer. Valkyrie is very much able to play aggressively with this Orb of Corrosion.
Good hook.
Oh.
Jumped in on the top lane. His support
Again.
rotated away, and the second they realize that Aretes isn't there, they go straight in for it. El Misho is just living in this little section of the tree line here, waiting for the opportunity to throw that Earth Spike out, and the PL has no vision of that. He can't see the Lion there until it's too late, and this top lane for Hokori is going incredibly well so far.
He's level 6 on Mars before 6 minutes into the game. I think they killed... Yeah, he's waiting for his TP right now. He has to just come back up here, but even if Aretas is there, he has Fire Spirits, but all of their damage, more or less, sure, you're getting 1 or 2 right clicks in, but it's just coming out from their magic. At the same time, bottom lane, they're getting these little kills. Or no, that was just Analog. He just killed him on the rune. And this is just getting a little bit too out of hand for him.
Didn't even use the lasso for that one either. He just goes in with the damage and sort of gets it done. So we were saying initially the reset kind of hurt Latam defenders a little bit based on how well they had been playing at the start of the sort of previous attempt. And now that is starting to come more and more into focus here. Instead, it's Hokori who are the ones really sort of pushing the tempo through the first 6 or 7 minutes here. 6 kills on the board, a 1k lead, and their cores are all farming up relatively well. Lumiere is maybe slightly behind compared to some of the other core heroes here, but he's got the Empower on him, and over the next couple of minutes probably, we'll see him start shading more and more towards that jungle to just try and basically leave the lane and focus on the last hits.
And that's where, again, all of the pressure is going to come from this Tiny, where you see he's not even going for phase boost. He's getting that Blink Dagger as fast as he can. If he can have a Blink Dagger at 10 minutes, then maybe you're going to be able to get a play going for you. But really, your follow-up damage in toss isn't that great with the supports you have. So let's say they try to make a kill on the Lumiere and they screw it up, the time lock's just going to immediately be there, and that's where they have to be so careful. And Kukahook, again, it's just he just pops the arena. There's nothing you can do. He didn't even use Doppel. That's how bad this top lane is. It's just initiating with the Hex into Spear, and there's nothing you can do about it.
And now Misho actually going to TP himself bot. They're looking to keep it going. Lumiere isn't quite level 6 yet, so maybe they wait just a little while longer to try and get that Chronosphere up and running. But if they do wait that long, this lane is pushing out. Valky's going to be sort of falling back. Moonlight's kind of doing the same, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they can wait. They just goes directly in there with the Earth Spike, into the Hex, into the Shockwave. Valky, though, not dead yet, as he's going to be able to not Shockwave, swatchbuckle himself back. Okay. Lumiere says, no, I am getting this kill, and there's nothing you can do about it. Drops the Chronosphere on the tower, pushes in for the final hit. Maybe not the cleanest sort of team fight in the world, but they get the job done. Kill will go their way, but now Black Soul TP's in. He's got the Invis rune. He's going to look for the kill. Avalanche is there.
Perfect.
The toss comes through, and they've got it. Exactly the play they need from Black Soul here. Trying to get aggressive, still a couple hundred away from that Blink Dagger, but with the Invis rune, he was able to make that play happen.
Nice little stack for him as well. It's just going to avalanche it. He's not skipping a beat, and that's incredibly important for Latam right now, because if there's any hero that's going to be making space, it's going to be the Tiny. As soon as he gets that Blink Dagger, oop, top. That's unfortunate.
Vitaly and Analog pushing their way in. They're going to be able to take Valky down. Can they get a Radius as well? No. No cancel on that TP. Spear had already been used previously to get the Pangolier. So they're not going to be able to find the secondary kill, but honestly, you got the Pango. That's really what you wanted there. You can get some damage onto this tier 1 tower as well, as you see Vitaly going to work on it. So Hokori are just playing this so incredibly well right now. 9 kills in 9 minutes. They're trying to put pressure onto those towers, try and take control of the map as early as possible. Really make it so that Kukahook on this PL doesn't have anywhere he can safely go to.
And Analog is going to take some stacks as well. And it really sucks, and that's the sort of benefit of this Bat Rider, where you are able to make those rotations. If you see 1 or 2 spells used, the biggest example would be if you see a puck use illusory orb, you just immediately are there to punish it with the bots. And now that he has Boots of Travel, he's just going to go towards that secondary item. Usually we see the BKB, but he's just saying, nope, I'm going to get a Blink Dagger, I'm going to be a secondary initiator. Vitaly's also making quick haste towards his own Blink Dagger. And that's where Hokori, even though they can play this one low and slow, they have so many active heroes on the front end of this game where during that 15-20 minute period, if this Tiny is not careful, Black Soul does have his Blink Dagger. He's got it exactly when he needs to. He needs to be so aggressive and he needs to be so careful, because if he goes in, if he blinks in with Tiny, doesn't get the combo, doesn't get the kill, then he is going to get TP'd on, rotated on by everyone. That's exactly what Hokori's lineup is the best at.
You sort of get into a situation there where it's a double-edged sword, right? You need Black Soul to make plays exactly like this one, blinking in for that Avatos combo as Misho is going to be taken down. But by the exact same, or I guess the other side of that coin, so to speak, if Black Soul jumps in, as you said, and he gets punished, then you don't have anyone else who's going to be able to sort of carry that torch. So you need him to make the plays, but you also need him to simultaneously keep himself safe. That is asking a whole lot from your mid laner here, but Black Soul is going to have to do it, because right now Latam defenders don't really have anyone else at this point in the game who can make those moves. As right now, he's looking to jump in onto Vitaly. They're going to be able to hit him up with the Soul Catcher into the Avatos, and Vitaly should be taken down there. Sunray was coming through a little bit, but it's Moonlight who will get the kill, but now Analog wants his revenge, pushing in. They get the lasso down onto that Tiny, pulling him back. Misho's here for the Hex as well, but the Supernova will be dropped down on the backline. They're still going after this kill, though, and they will be able to get it, but the Supernova stun does connect onto 2. At this point, though, it's only Moonlight and a Radies, and now they're caught out inside of the Chrono. Lumiere's going to be able to lock them both down. Valky's coming in, trying for the Swashbuckle, hoping he could have gotten off some sort of lucky shot proc there, but no such luck. Lumiere finishes off both of those kills, and Hokori, honestly, it was looking bad initially with the Mars getting jumped in on, but exactly as you were sort of describing earlier on, if somebody shows, they TP heroes in and they're able to turn it around so quickly onto those Latam defenders heroes.
Yeah, and it just feels like with the heroes that they have on the Latam side, as soon as he sees that Avatos combo, Analog says, okay, no spells. TP's in, gets the kill. Even though he ends up tanking the Shadow Demon Demonic Purge, it doesn't matter. He just tanks it up. He's level 11. He's just farming so well. And at the same time, of course, you struck before Vitaly got his Blink Dagger, but now that he does, this has just been a quiet farming Mars. We haven't seen him make any plays aside from just the kills he's been getting on Kukahook top. But now, if he gets aggressive and he's successful with his rotations, while, I mean, this is all time that Lumiere doesn't have Chronosphere, this is where it's going to feel awful for Latam. He needs to be unsuccessful, and, well, Black Soul, they can't make the play with the Shadow Demon showing, but they need to be very, very cautious of this Vitaly Blink Dagger. If he maybe finds Valkyrie again, we need to see Valkyrie also having these successful rotations. Otherwise, again, not everybody can jungle on the Latam side. They need Kukahook to take this farm.
They've just got to try and keep it safe for him. And honestly, if you're Hokori right now, that play in the middle lane, even though you weren't able to get onto Tiny thanks to sort of Moonlight's presence, that is still incredible amounts of information. You know that the Tiny was still sitting mid. He's not farming. He's not rotating. You have eyes on him pretty definitively. That is going to be pretty beneficial for them. If they know that the Tiny isn't active or farming, then they can be a little bit safer. But now Black Soul did smoke up with Moonlight. They're going to jump in onto that Bat Rider, trying to lock him down with the Purge. Is there any way for Analog to get himself out right now? Oh, he is going to try for the lasso, not enough to save him, but Vitaly gets in there for the spear into the arena. That's going to be enough to take Moonlight down, but now the Supernova, that's okay. Going to be coming out here. The DOT is still coming through. That is going to be enough to take Vitaly down. And honestly, at this point, if you're locked on defenders, I think you just straight up needed that kill. The Supernova is going to be on cooldown for a while, but you found what you wanted. But now they need to get everybody out. Valky has very little mana to work with here, and Lumiere is going to hit him up with a dilation. Gardet comes in as well. They're going to even commit the RP here just to make sure that this Pango can't get away. And I mean, they're actually not hitting him. The disarm came through with the lucky shot, so Lumiere wasn't actually able to do much damage. So Valky, with no mana and about half HP, just walks away. They used RP for that and don't get the Pango.
They have Finger cooling down as well. With the build that Gardic has, he's just max in power, so yeah, the RP feels a little bit strange, but Latam, oh, they're not done.
Okay, and onto the Phoenix. No Finger being deployed here. They're not going to need it as Analog comes in for the damage output, and well, I mean, they'll find the kill eventually, but the Phoenix as opposed to the Pangolier that they had a shot at earlier on is not going to be quite as valuable, but at least they're able to find something. They push the lead now past that 4K mark, and they maintain twice the kill count, actually a little bit higher than that technically, than their opponents. So if you're Hokori, sure, maybe you missed out on an opportunity there. Your RP's on cooldown for another 70, but you are still maintaining this lead. You're still finding some good farm for Lumiere. He's able to make his sort of presence felt in some of these fights here and there. And over on the other side, Latam defenders really just not keeping up. The PL is obviously trying his best, but Kukahook still needs more time.
And you're getting these good initiations, right? You feel Black Soul is doing his job, and if he's continuing to make plays with Moonlight, they've got another smoke, but this is their last one for quite a while. And even though these are being successful, these are smokes that aren't affecting really Lumiere at all. At the same time, Kukahook, he's trying to farm as fast as you can, but this net worth lead, it's just going nowhere. And at the same time, they're trying to get aggressive on you. They would love to kill Valkyrie bottom, just disable his Blink Dagger even further, but they're going on Kukahook.
They've got the PL, they hit him up with the arena, into the spear, into the finger.
No chance.
That is
Where's
so
the punish?
unfortunate, but yeah, Valky's going to try to come in. They're looking to turn this around. Phoenix is going to Icarus dive himself in as well. Black Soul comes in with the Avatar, so they do take Omisho down, but they need more. Vitaly next up on the chopping block. They're keeping him locked down here with that Rolling Thunder, but now Lumiere wants in. He wants that Chrono, but he needs to make sure he doesn't get hit by the Supernova. That is going to force him to back away, and that means there was no assistance coming to Vitaly, but they're still on the hunt. They've spotted out Moonlight in the south side jungle, trying to track him down. They're going to hit him up with the Firefly. That should be enough damage to finish things off as Lumiere gets the kill, but honestly, if you're locked on defenders, you salvage something there. You're going to lose Kukahook right at the start of the fight. There was nothing they could do to really prevent that, but at least they're able to take down both Vitaly and Omisho in exchange. But now, Black Soul, very close to the enemy there, but Gardic nowhere close to a Blink Dagger, so wasn't going to be able to sort of initiate in there, and he will simply walk away with that rune.
And really just beautifully played from Valkyrie. He had all the bounces he needed, and that's the exact punishment they needed. And unfortunately, a lot of these kills, a lot of this net worth is going to the Shadow Demon and the Tiny. And if Black Soul can get up that Echo Saber in a decent amount of time, again, it's going to feel good. But Lumiere already has the Sange up. This Void has just not felt anything. He's felt no pressure. And they got Phoenix bottom. Analog at the same time. Aside from that one death top, it feels like he is also kind of just okay with what's going on. He decided to, instead of going for that Blink Dagger, is just going to get that BKB. The threat of the Soul Catcher Avatar's combo is a little bit too much. And once he has it, that is when Hokori are going to decide to run over you. Fortunately, they don't have a lineup as adept at killing Roshan this time around. Even though the Void is definitely not too shabby at it, it's not going to be your 10-second Roshan that we saw. So that's definitely going to be an opening that maybe Latam are able to defend, but it feels like they need so much net worth on this PL before he's ever going to even make a thought of a rotation. He has his Diffusal Blade coming out now, but still, so many spells need to be used before he can even show his face. You need to see the Arena gone, you need to see the Chrono already committed, and then maybe you can see him trying to go for that cleanup, but it just always feels like there's going to be one spell that's going to be, oh, there's the PL. We're going to lasso him. We're going to RPM. Okay, Kukahook's dead. He doesn't have enough farm yet. And really just 1-4-1. He just needs so much time.
Yeah, you see the item queue coming out for him. He's looking to finish off that S and Y, then going after the Heart of Tarask to follow it up. So he's aware of the fact that he is not nearly tanky enough right now, but Sanj and a Heart of Tarask being sort of built up for him is, as you said, going to take time. And right now it's time that we're not entirely sure Latam defenders are going to be able to realistically create or buy for him. Hokori are really sort of building themselves up here. That BKB has been finished off by Analog. Vitali actually working towards a BKB of his own, and Lumiere is, well, not really looking for defensive items, but the damage is starting to come online here. The Mjolnir, the BKB queued up after that. So this is going to be a situation where Hokori are going to be getting that magic immunity. They're going to be sort of riding high on their own momentum. They will push into you, as you were saying, trying to sort of just roll them over. And Latam defenders, as of right now, don't know if they have the means to really keep that at bay, but they're going to have a bit of a reprieve here, at least mentally, as we do have a pause coming out. Valky has dropped out of the server, so we're going to be waiting on him to reconnect. Fingers crossed that we don't have any sort of issues like we did in the first attempt here at Game 2.
Yeah, and that's where, as this game gets harder for them, once these BKBs are online, there isn't going to be that defense coming out from the egg. That's where execution is going to need to be picture perfect, where you need to get your spells off before the enemy team, and you need to find really just the jump. If you are constantly getting initiated on, the team fights are just not going to go well for them. And
speaking of initiated on,
does Amisho have enough here? Yeah, he's got Finger. Well,
not really sure they needed that with Analog coming in, but he didn't have the lasso just in case that Phoenix maybe could have pulled off an Icarus dive play or gone for the Supernova. So Finger of Death will be deployed just to make sure the Phoenix isn't getting away there. And Hokori will be able to pick up the kill. That's another charge for El Misho as well. He's up to +3, so every little bit of extra damage there on that nuke is going to sort of come in handy, especially if they can catch out some of those core heroes the next time around. Meanwhile, Lumiere, with the DD rune and the Empower, was able to take down the tier 1 tower. Now his teammates looking to start a fight mid. They're in on the Black Soul. They're going to drop down the arena.
Oh,
okay.
No.
That's a weird one, but they do have Black Soul sort of away from his teammates. They're going to try and keep him isolated long enough to finish off the kill. Meanwhile, Lumiere did push in with that ult. He was able to keep everybody locked down. Couldn't find any kills inside of it, but they get the job done. They'll take down Black Soul, but now Kokook is trying to hold his ground. We talked about this earlier on. He's maybe not the tankiest of heroes, but he's trying to do as much damage as possible. They're hoping to hunt down Gardic. Not going to be able to finish him off, though, but now the Supernova channeled out on the high ground. Gardic will fall to the DOT, but the Supernova isn't in a position to really stun up any of the other Hokori heroes, so they continue to push their way forward. In onto Kokook as the PL will be stunned up, taken down. Now Valky in some trouble as well. He's going to get bashed to hell and finished off, and Arades, he lays all out there for the kill onto Analog with the Sunray, but that just means once it comes to an end, Hokori are able to clean him up. Triple kill for Lumiere, 5 for 2 trade overall, as Hokori will take the teamfight victory.
And really, I'm surprised they even sort of played to the thought of that happening. They had a ward, they saw everything. Black Soul just immediately got rebuked. It felt like they were baiting right there, where you immediately get the disruption off whenever the spells are committed onto the Tiny, but he took a little bit too much damage. He got dragged away from everyone, and while the roll was fantastic coming out from Valkyrie, it made Lumiere a little bit hesitant to commit that chrono initially, and it felt like the conditions weren't met for Kukahook to show up. There were no ultimates spent on the Hokori side, or all of the ultimates were spent on the Hokori side, but it still didn't matter. They found the right one. El Misho, with just the perfect hex, took a little bit too much damage, and if the fight starts on the real PL, then Kukahook, it doesn't matter how ahead you are. If it starts on the real one, if you get a little bit too low HP, you do not have heart. Oh. Nope.
Not quite having the damage there. The support was maybe 1.5 seconds behind, but just that little bit is enough. The Faceless Void is able to time walk all of that damage, and the Hokori are going to be just fine. And now they're starting to gear up a little bit here. BKB was finished off just a moment ago. El Misho, meanwhile, getting both the Blink and the Aether Lens online. So, I mean, if you're Hokori, there's no reason to slow down right now. You've got a 10k lead. That last team fight goes fantastically for you, despite the fact that it really looked like it shouldn't have. So they know that they have the advantage right now. They know they have their opponents on the back foot, and they know that PL, if they jump in onto him, doesn't have a whole lot in the way of defensive power. Black Soul was hexed up momentarily there. Analog a little bit too far away, and we mentioned earlier on he sort of bailed out of that blink play for the BKB, which means he's not actually able to close the gap there. So it's a good play from El Misho, and honestly one that doesn't cost him a whole lot. He goes for the hex, and that's just about it. So Latam defender's going to have to be incredibly careful here. Hokori have really 2, 3, 4 heroes, even if you include Lumiere, who could just jump straight in and start off a fight almost at any point.
And now Black Soul, he does have that Echo Saber, so he will be able to burst someone in his combo. But really, it feels like that's just going to be El Misho. Everybody else is just naturally, I think, a little bit too tanky for him. They'd love to start the fight on the Bat Rider. If they can kill him before his BKB gets off, maybe with the Soul Catcher. But no, they're going to take El Misho instead, but who are they going to lose?
In with the Chrono onto 2. They're going to lock down both of the supports here as both Moonlight and Radiance will be taken down, and now Black Soul's in trouble. He's going to go for the toss. Valky's coming in as well. Buyback's actually coming now as well, as both of those supports on the Latam defender side will be getting back to the fight. The problem is they can't save Black Soul, and now Gardic in with the RP onto 2, including Coco Hook, as they have cut out that PL. Can they actually bring him down? As of right now, no. They're focusing on the rest of the lineup instead. Moonlight dropping low. Valky in a little bit of trouble here as well, as Lumiere and Analog just completely isolate him from his teammates, and they will be able to bring him down. Coco Hook, the lone survivor here, as he is going to just sort of limp his way back to the base, but that's another team fight that just goes so incredibly poorly for Latam defenders, and they bought back with both of their supports only to lose them a second time. It really just seemed like they were scrambling there. Didn't really have a solid game plan.
And just perfect spear from Vitaly, chaining up the Phoenix out of the Chronosphere, followed by Lumiere with the shard purchase, just completely juking out Valkyrie. No Pango bounces ever hit onto that Void, so he was just able to target down whoever he wanted to at that point. And they're playing on Kuka.
They actually get him. They do have the lasso. He needs to identify the real one, but not quite able to do so. And now with Black Soul coming in, this may have been a bit of a greedy play. Analog is dropping low. He does have a regen rune bottled up, but he's never going to really get the opening to actually make use of it, as Black Soul will run down that kill, and that one, honestly, that felt just a little bit too greedy. You're basically counting on El Misho to hit up everyone, illusion-wise, in that fight. He does land the Earth Spike initially, but they don't quite have the damage to actually get through the PL as quickly as they would have liked. Without the lasso, they couldn't really keep him from taking El Misho down first, and then just sort of waiting for the reinforcements to finish off the Bat Rider as well.
Yeah, and they do need to be cautious of those plays. If Kukahook, he's able to get that picture-perfect sort of heart, I don't really expect him to get the shard just because you are playing versus Lion, but we definitely could see it coming out from him. You just need to tank up as much as you can on this Void. I can only imagine he's going to look towards a Scotty if he's able to get that farm allotted to him. At the same time, though, your Mars, your Faceless Void are still speeding up further and further ahead. Lumiere is just going for the Ags immediately, and then once he has that, it gets very complicated for your heroes, where if the fight breaks out, again, you don't have buybacks on your supports. If somebody dies before getting their spell, if the execution level needs to be so high for Latam, if they can't defend their egg, if they can't cut out their BKBs, again, there are so many conditions that need to be met for a proper team fight to really happen for them, and up until their point, there are bodies lying for Kukahook to get a little bit more speed, trying to get a few more items, and I think to that degree, Hokori, yeah, they're just going to go to the pit, they're going to force you to fight them at Roche, and I don't think Latam are going to feel comfortable enough to make that fight happen.
And I do like seeing this from Vitaly here on the Mars. You see him queuing up the Desolator, normally in that position 3 role. This is not an item that we see the Mars really look at too often, more of a mid-Mars kind of play, but if you're Hokori right now, Lumiere is all your physical damage, Analog is currently sort of all of your magic damage, outside of, I guess, the thing of death, so having Vitaly sort of building himself up into a real second or third option in terms of doing significant damage in these fights is going to make it easier to lock down those supports, maybe burn your way through the PL illusions as well with things like the Rebuke, so the harder Vitaly hits, the better off they're going to potentially be here, and Latam defenders really don't have that same sort of luxury. The Tiny's damage is not where you would like it to be, and Valky's damage is, based on the item build here, basically non-existent. He can roll in with the Rolling Thunder plenty of times, but he's not actually going to be able to really chunk anybody down if they do require him to pick up those kills.
Still, the brunt of your damage, well, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
He's
no.
just going to let it fly, but the lucky shot will come through. The disarm is in there. Moonlight still taking down those. Vitaly will drop down the arena, and now
Oh, no.
that's I don't know about that supernova.
Come
Valky's
on.
actually rolling in. Maybe they can actually get it off. Yes, they do. The stun will come through, but at this point, where's the follow-up damage? Lumiere is dropping low, but he's just going to walk off all of that. Black Soul will be taken down. Rades is now going to be falling as well, and this is all just going to really fall apart for them. Elmisho and Gardic do get taken down on their own side, but the cores are still standing, still fighting, and they're in onto Cookahuk. They do see the PL, but another disarm coming out there onto the Faceless Void. If he does go down, he does have the Aegis to work with, so he can afford to stick around a little while longer, but they need some initiation. Vitali tries to blink in, but the Eul Scepter locking him down before he can actually go for the stun, but Lumiere, he doesn't care. He's just in onto Cookahuk, will be able to take him down. That is going to cost him the Aegis, but without the PL, I'm not really sure if there's anything left for Latam defenders to do here, as Hokori took the tier 2 tower in the middle of that fight, and now they're pushing their way onto the high ground. Buybacks not really available for Latam. There's one on that PL, and I'm not really sure if they're willing to use it here. They might just have to let this full lane of Rex go.
And it's just perfect from Lumiere. You find the backline, you get those defensive heroes. You see he's just going forward and backward with the Ag Shard and the Ags. And if he gets any stun, he's just being obnoxious. This is this point of Faceless Void. We usually see this 40 minutes into a game where what do you do now that he just is going to constantly be aggressing you with this 4-second time lock? There really isn't anything you can do. And if Lumiere is continuously able to get to this backline, right now, you always think, okay, this front line's pretty oppressive. We need to get the backline supports, otherwise we're not going to have enough burst damage. But with the position that they're in right now, there isn't a front line. There isn't a hard completed on the PL. Blaxel, while he is naturally tanky on this Tiny, it's really just nothing. If they're able to dive in deep, kill off these supports, the majority of the threat goes out of the window. You don't have that soul catcher, maybe catching you off guard with that HP removal. You weren't able to use that role offensively at all. You needed to chain it up to just try and defend the egg. And even though it goes off, they just walk away from it. They kite the fight out. There's no reason for them to stick around. Gardic might go down, but they have to be so careful of sticking around here. And they're not even going to entertain the thought. They're just going to keep farming up. Lumiere is just completely chilling. There's no threat to him at all in this game.
Yeah, and it's a little funny, ironic, unfortunate, not really sure what phrase we would want to use here, but we were talking about Latam defenders with their initial draft for Game 2 before the reset, having a similar problem. We were talking about the Lesh and the Spectre maybe getting caught in a situation where they're forced to sort of act as those frontline fighters, and Hokori didn't necessarily have to pay them too much attention, could potentially sort of go around them or isolate them, and despite the fact that they got the chance to pick some different heroes here, they're caught in a relatively similar scenario. The front line is not quite strong enough to sort of keep heroes from getting onto those heroes behind, as Elmisho will end up being taken down there. Valky's able to get in quickly for the kill with the Rolling Thunder, but at this point, that's all that they can do right now. Black Soul is there for the sort of lockdown and the burst potential, but you're not going to be able to burst down any of those cores. You just have to sort of subsist off of support kills for the time being while Cookahuk continues to farm.
And really, now Vitali even has a Deso, so these supports that maybe before they were living on slivers of HP and able to get their abilities off, we're not seeing, I think, Latam get to that point where maybe the Phoenix has an Aeon Disc, maybe we start seeing these heroes get those defensive items where you do start running down out of damage on the Hokori side, but they have such a good spread between physical and magic damage that I really don't doubt that they're going to be able to run out of that. They're going to continue to keep on running at you, keep on sort of playing around the fact that they are in this quite big lead. Even Lumiere, he finishes up a BKB because he knows the only way this egg is getting off is if I'm getting stunned or if he's not in my chrono. And look at him. He's just popping smokes, just running back and forth. He's really just under no threat right now.
Yeah, he knows. Really, I mean, like you said, who's going to stop him? Who is actually going to catch him out here? And who can keep him locked down long enough where the BKB won't be activated? There's just not a lot that Lumiere has to be afraid of. It's really a situation where the only person who can kill Lumiere is Lumiere himself. And so far, we haven't really seen him making any massive mistakes. He's been quick on that sort of reverse time walk to get himself away from any potential overextensions, although this time he's going to continue pushing his way forward. He thought he spotted Cookahuk. Instead, he'll go on to Black Soul. He does have the chrono. Is he willing to commit it, though? He thought about it for a moment, but won't actually go in for it. Instead, he's going to jump in onto Valky, but the roll-up will keep him safe. No, it won't. There's going to be that Chronosphere deployed, and Valky should be taken down here. Lumiere's got the damage. Vitali now in with the arena. Get the spear stun in onto a Rades. They're going to be able to lock him down. Cookahuk, meanwhile, trying his best to push in here, but Gardic hits him up with the RP, catching him out. They'll take him down. Cookahuk's dead. There's no buyback available, and that, honestly, yeah, that's just the game. Latam defenders will concede here. It looks like the Tiny will be taken down one last time as Analog is going to pad the stats just that little bit. And that is it. Hokori will be able to take the win here in Game 2.
Yeah, and it is unfortunate, of course, with the DC, with the sort of soft reset there, where they're just going into game two with no precedent coming in from the beginning of that second game before. But still, it's sort of expected. It's hard to say, but Autumn Offenders, they had a rough shot in the DPC. They're playing versus a team from upper division, a team that has shown to be one of those SA teams that just takes games off of pretty much everyone. And I think Hokori, they really short up all their issues. They get to play their old standbys. They get the Void Mag that they're so comfortable playing. And just Autumn Offenders with the draft they had, just very hard to execute. And I think uncharacteristically, Kukahook just letting himself get punished just a little bit too much here and there, and they just fell behind just a little bit everywhere. And versus a team like Hokori, they definitely take the space. They definitely do whatever they want, and really just Lumiere Void. You got to be careful of it.
Yeah, they didn't really do anything to slow him down. Double-digit kills for Lumiere as well as Analog and Vitali. So if everyone in your core trio ends up hitting double-digit kills, if everybody's able to keep the death counts relatively low there as they were, then Latam defenders caught in a position where there weren't really any weak points to expose in that opposing lineup. We even saw towards the back end of that game, they struggled to get kills onto even El Misho and Gardic on those two supports. So Latam defenders really just couldn't build themselves up in the way that they needed to. Kukahook obviously gave it his best shot, and he did eventually end up getting that Sanjin Yasha as well as the heart, but by that point, it's just too much to deal with. He was tankier than he had been previously, but you saw in that final fight, sure, he's tanky, but his teammates certainly aren't. They're not able to hold the line, and Kukahook alone can't really sort of 1v5 his way out of that scenario.
And I think Vitali just had way too good a game. He was just unstoppable. He was 1,500 net worth ahead of the Void coming out of the early game. He continued to stay in those high net worths, just finishing off pretty much whatever item he wanted. And then to compound that issue, Valkyrie on the other side, another key player for their team on the Latam Defenders, was just continuously getting rotated on by that Batrider, just last pick Batrider. There's a reason we always see it banned out for really just this reason in particular, where you just aren't careful for 1 second. He TPs to your wave. He gets a free kill. He continues to just run around. And it feels like Latam, the execution just wasn't there this time around.
And now, unfortunately, if you're Latam defenders, well, you're out of the event. Their run in this TI qualifier has now come to an end, and really in sort of the worst possible fashion as well. Not necessarily because of the loss, obviously that is going to sting, but the thought of what might have been. They were playing incredibly well in that sort of previous attempt at game two. They had, I think, something like a 6-1 kill lead. They were a couple thousand gold ahead net worth wise. They were looking really good in that matchup. Obviously, we weren't too deep into it, but now you're going to sort of look back and wonder what might have been had we not had that sort of server issue that forced the full reset. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, you can't dwell on that too heavily. It is what it is. Dota 2 is going to do what it wants, but that's got to sort of maybe add a little bit of extra layer of pain there for Lost and Defenders. They looked like they had a better game going for themselves the last time around.
Yep. And now going forward, who knows? Of course, we didn't see a lot from Latam. You know, they didn't play in BTS Pro Series 6. They weren't able to, of course, they're probably scrimming like maniacs. They're always playing pubs. You always see Kukahook in those high MMR games. But again, it does suck to see him go. But somebody's got to lose, right? We are lower bracket right now. And Hokori, they were just simply better. And they're definitely a team that you have to be careful of. We even saw it in their series yesterday versus Unknown. That's something that these SA teams, especially the, I want to say the top half of the bracket, everybody's going to take games off of everyone. And who we see in that best of 5 grand final, it really, I honestly have no idea, especially with no ping going down 1-2 the other day. Really, all these SA teams are so close at the top.
Yeah, it feels like we just got sort of a logjam in that upper division, but just because a team gets knocked down to the lower division doesn't necessarily mean that they're not capable of making that run. We've seen Hokori just now put together a pretty clean 2-0 sweep. So Hokori will be moving on to the next round of the lower bracket. They, as of right now, may not know who their opponents are. Haven't gotten a chance to look at the bracket as we were in the game there, but they will be moving on. So congratulations to them. Commiserations to Latam defenders. They gave it a good shot here, but a 0-2 defeat will bring their run to a bit of an early. So with that being said, we are going to be moving on to our next matchup. We are going to be hopping into, I believe, Bienomistas versus Inverse as our next matchup, another lower bracket series. So once again, we will have elimination on the line. So going to be getting into that one in, I believe, about 10 to 15 minutes, if I'm reading the notes from production correctly. So we'll be taking another quick break here in between series, but when we return, it will be our second series of the day here on the B stream. Bienomistas again taking on Inverse. So stick around, and we'll be bringing you, bringing you that series just as quickly as we can.